Initiating startup sequence.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You are now plugged in.
Hey guys, thank you for tuning in to episode 208 of the Plug and Play podcast. I'm your host, Zach. And, well, guys, it's just me this week. So this week, guys, we're going to do something a little bit differently. We're all recovering from the PAX POX, as we like to call it. Last week was What is PAX? This week is Recovering from PAX. So with that, guys, we're going to talk a little bit and hear a little bit about our time at PAX through interviews. So Tim did some amazing interviews this year at PAX 2018, PAX West 2018. And we're going to just go ahead and listen to the audio. I did one interview while Tim was doing a AR session. We're also going to hear that. And then at the very end of the show, guys, which is going to be super short this week, we're going to hear a little bit of a new project I've been working on. So let's jump in. This is Tim's interview with Swery.
Hi, this is Tim Blitzer with thebuttonsmashers.com. We are here at PAX West with the one and only Swery. And thank you for meeting with me.
Yeah, thank you for coming here.
How has your weekend in Seattle been so far?
Honestly, I'm so tired.
I am right there with you. I saw you last night really briefly, but you were rushing off to something else. You were at the mixed party.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm looking forward to seeing your two games today. I haven't seen them yet. I was waiting to talk to you first, and then I'm going to see A Good Life, and I'm going to see The Missing later. I know in your previous games there's influences on your games, like, for example, Deadly Premonition was influenced by Twin Peaks. Would you say there's any influences on either of these games that you'd like to discuss?
Can I speak Japanese? 公式には、デッドプリモーションは、ツインピークスだけからインスピレーションを受けたわけじゃないよっていうふうには言ってます。
So Deadly Premonition was not like completely inspired by Twin Peaks. That's kind of a common misconception, but it's not only Twin Peaks. It's just like maybe a little bit, but that's not really the main inspiration.
My apologies.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It happens.
Yeah.
Let me back up the question even further then. What do you are a busy person. Do you have time for popular culture? Are there movies and TV shows and games that that influence you now?
もう忙しいけどゲームも映画も全部ないと新しいものを生み出せないというか、インプットがないとアウトプットができないと思ってるんで、それはいろんなものを削ってご飯の時間とか寝る時間とか削ってそういうことを続けてます。
So yes, I'm really busy, but if you don't like really look and have an input and start to look at other movies and other TV shows and stuff, then it's difficult to have your own output. So it's really important to both consume culture in order to create it. So when I have time, like before I sleep or something, I always try to spend some time watching TV or watching movies.
Sounds good. Sounds like you take care of yourself.
Yeah. 大丈夫。もうそんな生活を45年続けてるから大丈夫。
I've been living this life for like 45 years, so it's okay. I understand. I've got the secret to it now.
Zen master. I love it. So, A Good Life, dogs and cats. Do you have pets?
Yeah. So I had 12 cats and 4 dogs at the same time in my house.
Wow.
But unfortunately for now, only 6 cats and 2 stray cats and 1 eyeball. Do you know eyeball? It's a Lobo dog from Sony.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You just recently started up your own game company. What have been the big challenges and the successes or celebrations you've had so far along the way?
最近自分の会社が立ってるからなんか難しいこととか意外と簡単なこととかありますか？
会社を自分でやって大変なのは、例えばサインをするときにそのサインはちゃんと考えないとサインしないとダメ。いろんなもの、契約書とか。今までは割と適当にやってたけど、でそれと良くなったのは自分の考えてることとかみんながやりたいことっていうのをボスとかにいちいち相談しなくても 良くなったので、その時間を全部クリエイティブに使うことができるようになってます。
Well, it's like now that I have my own company, I have to be very careful about the things that I sign and decisions that I make because I'm responsible for not just the things that I want to do, but the whole company as a whole. But it also gives you a lot more freedom to be more creative of what you want to do and the kind of vision that I want to have for my projects.
意味のないミーティングがなくなった。
I don't have any more meetings that don't mean anything. I don't have like meetings that just don't go anywhere because now I'm in control.
That's great. You have that focus, and that really makes me appreciate the time with you. So I'm gonna wrap it up now. Thanks again.
もうそれで時間です。なんかありがとうございます。
もう最後？OK。今回アンティンさんのブースでザ・グッドライフ出しています。このザ・グッドライフはキックスターターで資金を集めたプロジェクトなので、皆さん裏切らないように必ずいいゲームに仕上げますから、最後まで応援してください。
So this time we're here, we're showing the good life, which was funded on Kickstarter. I want to say thank you to everybody for backing it, and we're going to do our best to make it a really great game that everybody's proud of, and I'm proud to put out. So please continue to cheer for us, and we'll have more updates in the future.
Sounds good. We will do that. Thank you.
So, guys, that was Tim's interview with Swery, I would say, legend, the man himself. And, the thing I really appreciate about that was that Tim didn't extremely focus on the games itself, but the man behind the games, what he's been up to, his history. And, we did touch on some of the games, and we touched on some of the highlights of, like, animals, his dogs, his cats, his 6 cats, I think he said, which is just crazy to me. But that's awesome. The next interview, guys, we have is Sound Self, which is the AR experience. I did the interview. It's a very last second. I didn't realize we were going to do this. It was just kind of like a Tim handing me the microphone and go sort of thing. So let's listen to Sound Self and let's keep our zen flowing.
Sound Self is an audio-visual haptic biofeedback experience that's guided by your voice. So you're able to see abstract visualizations through the VR headset. You're hearing your voice modulated through the headphones, and then feeling full-body vibrations through a vibroacoustic mattress.
Okay, so everybody's experiences can be completely different depending on their breathing or the depth.
Absolutely, yeah. All the visuals are generative, and they're based on your voice, and even if you were to have 2 sessions and tone similarly, you would probably end up with 2 different sessions as well. So it's a type of experience that encourages a self-guided meditation through your voice.
Okay, so it does a lot of deep breathing and stuff like that, or
definitely it encourages deep breathing because it's not a traditional game, but I will say that you're quote-unquote rewarded by toning for longer periods of time, or for experimenting with your voice and shifting your pitch in different places. There's no wrong or right way to experience Sound Self, but to simply follow your voice and see where it takes you.
Okay. Sorry, I have something in my throat all of a sudden. When do you know you reach the end of the meditation? Is there an end? Do you just keep going up? I mean, it looks like it's an expanding universe that we're like going up inside. There was like a branch that we were climbing up, it looked like almost, and now it looks like we're just floating there.
That's right. So the branch, what we were seeing, is part of a tree.
Okay.
That's at the very beginning of the experience. You start at the base of a tree looking into a night sky. And so you start in a grounded space that is somewhat familiar.
Okay.
And as you tone, you're sort of rising up the tree, and eventually you go beyond the tree and the experience becomes much more abstract.
Okay.
Most of the duration of the experience is in the more abstract space, and then eventually you return to the tree, and that's how you know that the experience has concluded.
Okay.
You come back down to the ground.
Awesome.
Also, the lengths of the sessions can vary, so it can be 5 minutes, 8, 10, 30 minutes, So you can really customize it to your needs.
Okay. And obviously, a lot of people aren't going to have the bed that you have, but what type of VR headset support do you guys going to have for this? Or, I'm assuming you guys are releasing it, so what type of VR headset will be usable on this?
Hey, Robin. Yeah. So this is Robin Arnott, and he's an audio engineer and director of Sound Self and co-founder of Orpheus.
Okay.
And can you tell us what headset Sound Self is targeted for?
Sure, yeah. So Oculus Rift, Vive, PSVR, and next gen 6 Degrees of Freedom, unwired, untethered headsets that we're going to be coming out in the next year and a half or so. I think that's our big ticket.
Okay, and when is this going to be on for final release?
You know, it's hard for me to say. I've been developing this for about 6.5, 7 years, and it's always felt like it's 2 years away or like it's a year away. It's such an experimental, and the project is discovering itself, but we really are in the final tail of development now.
Okay.
It's just about getting the introduction to the experience down, which Topher is deeply involved in.
Awesome.
And from that, once it's ready, it's ready, and then it's out.
So where can they find out more about this? Like, you guys have a website or?
Best place to go to is Orpheus-selfcare.com.
Okay.
Orpheus is spelled Orpheus.
Sounds good. And it definitely looks like it's a very, I mean, my colleague here is very big into meditation and stuff like that, and he was extremely excited to come and check this out. So
yeah, he seems pretty in it.
Yeah, he definitely likes this type of stuff. So I guess then they can follow you guys on social media off your guys' website and learn more about it as the project comes to a close.
Yeah, that's right. And just so you know, this is one of 3 experiences that we're sharing at PAX.
Okay. Want to tell us about the rest of them?
Absolutely. There's also Microdose VR.
Okay. What's that?
Developed by Vision Agency. That's a creative experience that allows you to create these elaborate motion graphics in the air,
nice.
in 3D, also in virtual reality, and that's directed by art director Android Jones, who worked on Metroid Prime series.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. There's also Rave Runner, developed by Kinemotic Studios.
Okay.
And that's a rhythmic and dance game that really encourages your full body usage.
Okay.
In fact, our creative director, Job Stauffer, has lost over 85 pounds and counting in the past year from VR workouts, and is now clocking in, burning over 1,000 calories per hour in Rave Runner, wearing weighted gloves.
Wow. So how is he, what's he using for the hand motions and stuff like that?
Well, you can see right here, you see on the mixed reality screen over there?
Uh-huh. Oh, I see. Okay, yep. So that's on, is that PS4? No, that's not.
That's on a Vive right now.
That's on Vive right now,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so all these are the first 3 titles that Orpheus is publishing. And again, everything that we encourage is self-care oriented in some way or another.
Awesome. Well, sounds good. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do this with me.
Absolutely.
All right,
yeah.
thank
Thanks
you.
for your time.
All right, thanks. Take care.
So as you guys heard, I had something stuck in my throat for about the first half of it. And it was completely unplanned, just on the spot interview. And, you know, in our days of video gaming where we can get so stressed out, or just our normal work life where we're working a 40-hour week, 50-hour week job, and we just need to rewind a little bit, relax, and refocus ourselves, you know, Orpheus is something, they're putting together some stuff that, you know, is really focused on the self-care. And I think if you talked to Tim, he said that he really enjoyed it. So, yeah, that is Sound Self. And we have one last interview that Tim did with a gentleman by the name of Suda51. So we're going to go ahead and roll that. And then right after this, we're going to jump into the sneak peek of a new podcast that I'm putting out. So stay tuned.
All right, this is Tim Bledsoe with thebuttonsmashers.com. We're here at PAX West with the legendary Suda51 of Grasshopper Manufacturer. I just tried out the demo for Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes, and there's some exciting new additions to the series, mainly multiplayer, and the fact that you go back in time and play games from the past. Are there any other surprises to the series that you can tell us about?
デモ体験版ちょっとプレイさせてもらって、コアップもありまして、ゲーム内のゲームもありまして、いろんなサプライズがあるんですけれども、それ以上にもなんかサプライズ待ってますでしょうか。
そうですね、その前にちょっとバグっちゃってごめんね。
First of all, he said, I apologize for the bug that you encountered.
I actually view that as a personal achievement.
それはいや、自分がバグを出してよかったと思います。
I'm sure you'll have it fixed by the time the game is released.
もちろんゲームが出るときはもうないと思います。
いやいや、もちろんです、もちろん。はい。まあもちろんたくさんのサプライズというか、6つのゲームの世界を遊んでもらうのでプレイヤーには、なので毎回どんな新しい遊びが出るのかっていう楽しみはこのゲームにはたくさん詰まっていると思います。
Like you said, tons of surprises, and as you mentioned, this is a game within a game. Travis and Batman get sucked within the game itself, and there's actually 6 games within there that are all different, and so he really hopes everyone's going to be enjoying the going from game to game and seeing what surprises await in each game.
I'm personally really looking forward to playing the whole game. Question about a game in the past, one of my favorites that you've made back in the GameCube, Killer 7. I noticed that you put elements of Killer 7 and let it die, and I'm wondering if there's room for more Killer 7 content, maybe on the Switch, or is that something you've considered?
自分が大好きなキラー7があるんですけれども、レッドデッド内になんかキラー7の様子がいくつか入ってると思うんですけれども、今後キラー7は他のプラットフォーム、例えばスイッチに出す予定してますでしょうか？
今のところまず本当スチーム版がまず実現するのが第一段階なので、まあその先には何やね、もちろんスイッチとかあれば最高なんですけど、まずはスチームで実現したいなと思ってます。はい。
Yeah, first and foremost, we really want to, it's coming to Steam, and so we really hope that, it's coming to Steam. We really this fall. We really hope that people look forward to that, and then hopefully, based on a positive reaction to that, we can move forward and maybe move to another platform as well.
So what I'm hearing you say is I need to buy it on Steam, so maybe I can play it on Switch someday.
っていうのはまずは Steam で買ってください。でその後もしかして別のプラットフォームをプレイできることですよね。
そうですね。そうなると最高だなと思います。
Exactly. That's what I hope happens.
Yeah.
It was really great to meet you. Thank you much for your time, and I hope you have a great PAX.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So, guys, that was a legendary Luja. Where the hell did that come from? That is the legendary Suda 51, guys. Obviously, Tim was extremely excited and very honored to meet him and to meet Swery. We had a great time at PAX, guys. This is basically the last that we're going to be talking about PAX. I mean, there might be mentions here and there, callbacks, stuff like that, with games that we're playing coming out here very shortly. But for PAX specific coverage, this is going to be it. 208 is going to be the last PAX West 2018 coverage episode. So with that, let me just introduce this next project I've been doing. I've been kind of hinting at it. I've missed the deadline that I promised you guys. I do have episodes recorded, and I'm going to go ahead and play one of them for you guys right now. This is a new podcast brought to you by me in Plug and Play Productions. Let's roll the tape. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Zach, and this is Podcast Junkie, a weekly bite-sized show that gives you a look into a new podcast each week. So, let's get into this week's show. If you're into a shorter bite-sized podcast, like Podcast Junkie, and into history, and the story behind it, let me introduce you to Retropod, a podcast brought to us by The Washington Post and hosted by Mike Rosenwald. As an avid history lover, I cannot get enough of Retropod. Averaging in lengths from 3 to 6 minutes, you can literally fit in your day anywhere. While you're getting ready for a shower, to even taking out the trash, Retropod will fit nicely and you'll learn a fact about history that you more than likely haven't heard before. The thing I love is that they don't focus on just the big names of days past, but the forgotten heroes, villains, and world changers that you may never have heard of. To show you just how amazing this taste of history can be, let's take a listen. Unlike other episodes of Podcast Junkie, where we just give you a sneak peek, let's actually listen to an entire episode and meet back here after.
Hey, history lovers. I'm Mike Rosenwald with Retropod, a show about the past, rediscovered. This summer, a wonderful documentary was released about one of my heroes, Mr. Rogers. The film is remarkable in so many ways, especially as it relates to how Mr. Rogers was so deftly able to enter the national conversation during tragedies. He got his first crack at that enormous responsibility not long after the show launched in 1968.
It is possible he has not only Senator Kennedy, oh my God, Senator Kennedy has been shot, and another man.
These were times of chaos and tumult. Senator Robert Kennedy was assassinated. Martin Luther King had been killed just weeks before. Cities burned. And then, on the night before Kennedy was buried at Arlington National Cemetery, a puppet appeared on television and asked this question.
What does assassination mean?
The puppet was a tiger named Daniel Striped Tiger. His voice belonged to Fred Rogers, an ordained minister who spoke directly to children, turning his neighborhood of make-believe into a village of empathy, knowledge, and wonder. In taking on Kennedy's death, Mr. Rogers gently guided and consoled a grieving nation, a job he took on again and again, right up to the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks. Mr. Rogers' approach to addressing tragedy was simple. Listen. Here's what he said in a public service announcement late in life.
What children probably need to hear most from us adults is that they can talk with us about anything, and that we will do all we can to keep them safe in any scary time.
And then, of course, he said this.
I'm always glad to be your neighbor.
In difficult times, children and adults alike knew that neighbor would be there. One episode in particular encapsulates Mr. Rogers' approach to difficult conversations. It was an afternoon in the early 1980s, following the assassination of John Lennon, the attempted murder of President Ronald Reagan, and a series of child murders in Atlanta. Wearing his quintessential cardigan sweater, Rogers looked into homes around the country and said this to adults and children alike.
When children see and hear about frightening things, it's best for them to have an adult close by, somebody who loves them and can put their arm around them. So please get a grown-up that you love to watch this program with you.
He then addressed all the violence that had been in the news recently.
When I was a boy and I would hear about something scary, somebody getting badly hurt or something like that, I'd ask my parents or my grandparents about it, and they would usually tell me how they felt about it.
They felt sad, of course, upset. But there was something his mother advised, a phrase that is tweeted to this day following tragic events.
Always look for the people who are helping, she'd tell us. You'll always find somebody who's trying to help.
This approach to dealing with tragedy began with Bobby Kennedy's death. Mr. Rogers stayed up the night before the funeral working on a script. The scene he wrote is astonishing in its simplicity and depth. In the neighborhood of make-believe, Daniel is talking to Lady Aberline. He gives her a balloon, which she promptly blows up. Then she releases the air. Daniel inquires about where the air went. Lady Aberline explains that the air goes all around. People are different, though, she says. Their air goes out and then comes right back in. And then Daniel says it.
What does assassination mean?
Have you heard that word a lot today?
Yes. And I didn't know what it meant.
Well, it means somebody getting killed in a sort of surprise way.
Lady Aberline asks if Daniel would like to come to a picnic with her. No, he said, he wasn't feeling up to it. She tells him that she understands. Sometimes, when you're sad, you just don't feel like a picnic. Then Mr. Rogers appears on screen. He said Lady Aberline's way of coping was to go off to a picnic, but that wasn't for Daniel. Families, Mr. Rogers said, should cope with tragedy in whatever way feels right. Maybe that's watching Kennedy's funeral as a family. For others, a walk along a river. Some kids just want a strong arm around them. He ended by saying this, quote, I always say to the children, you've made this day a special day just by being you. And you have. I care deeply about you and your families. I hope you know that. I'm Mike Rosenwald. Thanks for listening. If you want to learn more about how the nation mourned the death of Bobby Kennedy, you can find that episode of Retropod in your podcast app. It's called Mourning Bobby Kennedy. And for more forgotten stories from history, visit washingtonpost.com/retropod.
As you just heard and hopefully learned, Retropod is excellently produced and researched from start to end, and wound up in a glorious earbite that brings to life the history of us as humans. If you want to know more about Retropod, make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening to Podcast Junkie. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoy listening to Retropod or any other podcast we've previously covered, which can all be found wherever you're listening to Podcast Junkie. You can find us at Cast Junkie on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, so follow us, won't you? We'll be posting links to this show and all others we've covered on them. So don't forget to subscribe to Podcast Junkie so you can get the next episode as soon as it drops, and rate and review us to help us get our name out there. Have a podcast suggestion? Send them to us on social media, and we'll add it to our extensive list. Until next week, don't forget to binge all the rest of the podcasts we've been highlighting. It's going to be available here very shortly, next coming weeks, I'm hoping. I'm just getting a stockpile of these episodes done, recorded, edited, and saved, just so there's no chance that there's going to be a week where there's a down week. They're going to be short. They're going to be very short. I think the longest one I have right now is like 12 minutes. And you guys, it's not on iTunes yet, but what you guys can do is follow us at Cast Junkie on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. There's nothing on those channels yet. They're completely dead, but the second that I start ramping up, they're going to go active. So if you guys want to get on the ground floor before anything happens, head over there to do that. That brings us to the end of this episode, 208 of Plug and Play Podcast. And until next week, guys, don't forget to follow us over at Facebook.com/Plug and Play Show, Twitter and Instagram at Plug and Play Cast. And until next week, where we're back, no more PAX POX. Don't forget to prime and shine.